So the good thing about this evening's class is that we are starting in a seated posture. So you would be facing the front of the mat. I'm just going to be heads on so I can see what's going on really. And we're going to slowly take the feet out nice and wide. And at the time that I do that, I'm going to wriggle my butt out a little bit, so I'm more onto the front edge of the sitting bones. And then I'm going to flex my feet back. So I want my feet pointing up towards the sky and the toes spreading a little bit. And I'm going to take the hands out and stir the pot. So just interlace the hands lightly. And we make little circles to start with, so small pots. And we're actually trying to manipulate the pelvis around. So we're working into the hips. And the spine is kind of staying in a somewhat fixed position over the top of the pelvis. As we get a little bit more into the hips and allow the spine to sort of take a little bit more of the strain, those circles can get bigger and bigger. So as we lean forwards, the pelvis will tilt forwards. As we roll out to the sides, it will kind of rock off to the side. And as we go back, it tilts backwards. So there should be a limit to how big these circles can get if we're being really careful about trying to keep ourselves aligned with the pelvis. And we'll take a few in the opposite direction. You do see people that are hypermobile in the hips. So they're just rocking around like very loose ball sockets. Probably not the best thing to tell them. And then we'll come back into the center and just let hands down. Put hands underneath the legs, draw them back in, and we're going to come on to heels. So just moving the block out, sitting down gently. And once you're kind of happy with the ankles and toes pointing backwards, we'll just bring the fingertips onto the collarbones. Elbows come together, lift up on the breath in, roll the elbows back into the ribs, and letting the spine get a little bit of a flex and extend through the mid and upper back, as well as moving the shoulders around. Now let's take one of those in the opposite direction as well. And let the hands come back down. Take the arms out nice and wide. Bring the left arm across, right arm over the top, and come into eagle arms. We're going to take the elbows out from the chest to about the height of the shoulder blades. Now on the inhale, we're going to start to arch the spine up towards the sky. And on the exhale, we're going to round the spine gently. Inhaling up. Now we're trying to keep the pelvis pretty much in the same plane. So this is the upper and middle back that are moving more than the pelvis. We could do it the other way around. But we're just trying to get it into the upper back. Now release the arms out. Cross them over the opposite way around. Set the elbows out. Inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, drop it back in. We'll come back into the center. Release the hands out. We're going to walk the fingers off to the right side. So we're going to take a bit of a lean and draw the left hand up. Now we're going to reach upwards and press down into the bottom hand. So it's a side bend, but rather than trying to drop into this, we're trying to lift over to the side. And feeling the spine lengthening a little, we'll drop that left hand down, ease ourselves back into the center, walk off to the left, and then we'll take the right hand up and lift and press. So over a number of breaths, we should feel the ribs starting to open up a little bit. And then we'll come back into the center again, just pushing off the fingers. Now we're going to come on to all fours just for a second so that we can tuck those fabulous toes underneath and sit back onto the heels. Now, if you're able to take it up higher, great. Otherwise, if the stretch is quite strong, you keep your hands on the floor. I'm going to take a few breaths here. Now, the good thing is I know exactly how long we're sitting here for. I know you guys don't, but I don't have to panic because I know when I'm stopping. Now take a little breath from there, bring the hands back down to the floor and untuck the toes. You might want to just tap them out a little bit before you sit back down onto the heels. And as you do, bring the palm of your hand onto the sort of the top of the pelvis, so fingers are pointing down towards the floor. You're going to squeeze the elbows together as much as you can, and then lift the chest up towards the sky. Let the neck follow where you're trying to take the spine. And then we're going to keep those shoulders down and squeeze the elbows together as best you can. Breathe into the top of the chest. Feel the collarbones stretch. Try and get as much length in that spine and lift as you can. Last breath in. Draw the belly in. Exhale back into a neutral position. We'll come back onto all fours and we'll bring the knees directly underneath the hips. Have a little maraud out from side to side just to get the wrists and the shoulders used to taking a little bit of weight. And then we'll tuck the toes underneath on the right foot and lengthen out. Press out through the heel, lift the foot away from the floor, take the left hand out, stretch that out, keep the spine in a neutral position, so drawing the belly in to help with balance. And we'll bring the hands back down onto all fours. Cross over to the second side. When you're ready, we'll lift and try and keep the pubic bone centered over the middle of the mat. Take the right hand out, stretch that out. So dynamic stretch out through fingertips and heels. Legs and arms feel like they're lengthening out so the muscles are stretched. Core draws in a little bit to keep ourselves in that neutral plane. Last breath in. We'll bring the hands back down to the floor. We'll take the knees out a little wider. Allow ourselves to sit back gently onto the heels. Take ourselves into child's pose. take the head to look at the fingers, come back up. We'll bring the knees back underneath the body this time. Take a little breath, a little cat-cow. Roll the spine out. Inhale forwards. Roll it out again. One more time. And this time as we exhale, we're going to allow the heels on the buttocks to visit each other at the back of the mat, sitting down into child. Then inhale back up, round spine. Draw the chest forwards as we finish the breath in. Tuck the tailbone underneath on the exhale. Draw the belly in and sit back onto the heels. Come up one more time. And through. And exhale. Back into the heels. Come back up. All fours to neutral. Make sure the shoulder girdles are engaged, so shoulders are back. We tuck the toes underneath and lift into down dog. And we'll walk the legs out a little bit. Check that the hands are nicely spread, knuckles, palms, really touching, working their way into the floor so there's no gaps. And we'll come back into a steady position and float gently into a plank. So shoulders are over wrists. Just ease the knees down to the floor underneath, and we'll take that right hand up towards the sky from that tabletop position. Thread the needle underneath and down and through, so shoulder reaches to the ground. We're going to try and take the left hand up towards the sky and then roll that around the spine and fingers in towards that front thigh. We're going to be here for about 5 breaths. Last breath in, come up with hand. Exhale into the floor to push away. Back onto all fours. Left hand comes up. Float it under and through. Take a little breath. Take the top hand up. Wrap it round. We'll begin our 5 breaths. One more breath in. Take the hand high. Bring it down as you exhale. Press out. All to fours. Take the knees as wide as the mat. Heels together. We sit back into that child's pose, bottom. And then we're taking the left hand underneath and dropping that shoulder down again. We're going to walk out the right hand as far as we can. So we're coming into a bigger twist. Walk the top hand back in enough so we can lift up. Hands onto the ground. So that's that mini halfway point into child's pose. We drop the shoulder down the opposite side. Walk the left hand out. And let ourselves lift back up again. As you do, we'll bring the hands back underneath. Take a little breath. Allow ourselves to take the feet out to the side and roll gently back onto our spines. I'm going to take a little breath from here. Now it's called an astro pose, and it's actually a moving pose. So we're going to lengthen the body out. We're going to try and draw the belly down and get the lower back to the floor. We'll take the hands up towards the sky as we breathe in. Interlace the hands and just point that index finger up towards the sky. Draw the ribs towards the pelvis and the lower back into the floor. And then slowly lengthen the toes away as you drop the hands over your head down towards the floor. Try and keep the spine really close to the ground. Inhale it back up. There's a little bit of a release. And then draw the rib cage down, lengthen out through the legs. Stretch the hands back, fingers touch the floor, hopefully. And then coming back up again. So every muscle in the body is engaged and working. Exhaling down, really work on keeping that lower back to connect. It will lift. We're doing our best to minimize it. The buttocks will definitely start to feel like they're fully engaged. We'll take that one more time. And then one for luck. Let the knees come in towards the body. And draw them in towards the chest. Roll onto the right side. Use the hands to lift up. We'll swing the feet towards the back of the mat and drop ourselves down onto our bellies at the front. Now I'm going to take a little breath from here. Wriggle my clothes out of the way. Allow the hands to come down by the side of the body, palms facing down, and have the feet about hip distance apart. On the inhale, we'll lift the chest and the hands away from the floor. And exhale, we'll come back down. Inhale it up. And exhale it down. Inhale it up. And exhale it down. One more. And then it will be thighs, toes, hands and chest, breathing in. Exhale it back down. Lift everything again. Try and keep the legs straight. They do tend to bend a little bit in this. Good thing is we can't see that, so we make the effort, and as far as we're aware, they're completely straight. A little bit of a squeeze into the shoulder blades as well at the top. Last lift. Coming back down. I'm going to take the hands forwards and make a little cactus arm. So we've got a bend in the elbows. Forearms are 90 degrees to the body. They're kind of following the line of the mat. I'm going to bend the knees as well. So the soles of the feet towards the sky. I'm going to take a little breath. Lift the chest. Lift the arms. Lift the thighs and press the soles of the feet to the sky. Remember to breathe. Little skydive. Couple more seconds. And then back down to the floor. Bring the hands down to the bottom of the ribs. Press away from the ground gently. Bring the knees back underneath, keeping them about hip distance apart. Sit gently onto the heels. Bring the hands underneath your forehead and slowly come into that child's pose. So we want to be a little higher than we would normally be in our child's pose. So we're not putting quite so much strain into the lower back muscles after extending the spine out. I'm going to be careful with the flexion. You can, whilst we're here, work on drawing the belly into the spine. So a little bit more breathing into the chest. Last breath in. As we exhale, we'll take the hands forwards, up onto all fours, tuck the toes underneath, and we'll bring ourselves back into that down dog. We'll float into a plank. And we'll just hold here. So the hips are as high as the shoulders. Try not to drop down. We're going to press away from the floor a little bit. So the back of the shoulders are taking on a bit of a rounding view. The heels are pressing out. Thighs are activated nicely. All right, take a little breath from here. Lift up the hips. Come up onto the tippy toes. And we're going to walk the hands into about halfway along the mat to the middle. And then we'll walk the feet in to meet the hands. We're going to come up onto fingertips and then fingertips onto the shins to lift up halfway. And we'll fold back down. Bring hands onto the hips, soften the knees, flat back and let ourselves lift. Take the hands forwards up into a little bit of a back bend. Bring the hands through the heart. Exhale over the thighs, down to the floor. Hands come onto the shins, lift up halfway. Fold it back down. Hands onto the hips, lengthen out, lift. Palms together, take it into that little back bend. Come back into the chest. Exhale down to the floor. And this time we're going to take the right hand forwards, lift the body up halfway, just extending the right arm out, using the left hand on the shin. One more breath. Allow yourself to hinge. Come back down. Right hand onto the shin, left hand draws out, body lifts up halfway. Lengthen out through the fingertips as a big stretch. Try and keep the weight even in the feet. There's a little bend in the knees or as much as you need to protect. 2 more breaths. Keep lengthening. Hinge. Fingers come up to the front of the mat and step back into the plank. Assume our comfortable position, and then we're going to take the right foot off the floor to about the height of the hip, keeping the toes pointing down. Both legs are strong. You should be able to feel both thighs working. They'll work differently, but you should be able to feel them working. And then bring that foot down. We'll take the leg up because we don't want to forget. One more breath. Ooh, foot to the floor. Knees to the ground. Elbows to the ground to come into Sphinx pose. We turn the palms up. Lift the chest forwards, lengthen away. One more breath here. As we exhale, bring the hands together. Chest comes to the floor. Hands come out, ready for skydive. We bend the knees. On the inhale, we lift everything. Keep lifting. Last breath. Ooh, everything comes back down. Hands to the bottom of the ribs, peel away. Allow yourself to swing the feet out to the side. You're going to take the feet towards the front of the mat. And let the soles of the feet come in so the feet are actually on the floor about hip distance apart. I'm going to take the hands behind for a little reverse tabletop. So fingers pointing towards the toes. Let the chest lift, roll the shoulders back and squeeze them together. Then lift the bottom. Draw the bottom towards the heels. Slowly lift it up. Now you can stay here if you wish, or you can take a breath in, come up onto the tiptoes of your right foot, and extend the leg out and point, trying to keep the two thighs the same height. And then we'll bend the knee, bring it back, come onto the tippy toe of the other leg. Sorry about that. Now, I'm not saying I'm wobbling a bit, I'm saying I'm wobbling a lot. So you might be feeling the same. Last breath in, bring the foot down, bottom to the floor, draw yourself bottom towards the back of the mat. You can cross the ankles over, roll over and come gently back down onto your chest. Now once you've done that, we'll take the hands out nice and wide. Come up onto the fingertips. We'll bring the toes together so they touch. We're just going to take a shoulder stretch. So we're going to bring the left hand underneath the shoulder. Walk the right hand out as we roll onto our hips and side of the ribs. Lengthen the toes away so the legs engage. And basically the feet lift off the ground a little bit. Head is on the floor, looking to the side of your mat. Core muscles are just holding the legs a little off the ground. So the feet are together. I'd estimate my feet are a few inches off the ground. They feel like they're quite a significant way away. There's that imaginary line down the body that we're looking for. And we'll slowly let the feet come back down. Roll onto the belly. We'll wriggle the fingers out a little bit. Allows us to come back into the center, so just realigning. And then when you're ready, take the lefty hand out. Walk out the fingers as you roll onto the side. Head come down. Lengthen those legs away so they engage. Feet just a few inches off the floor. So try not to let the hips roll back or the chest roll forwards. We're thinking 90 degrees. And then we'll roll back onto our bellies and wriggle the hands out gently. Bring the hands underneath the shoulders, underneath the chin, elbows out to the side. Let yourself wriggle the hips off just a little bit. And make sure the feet are on the center line. We're going to take both hands out wide, palms facing down. Take a little breath here. So this is the scorpion twist. So we're going to bend the left knee. This is where you might need to do a little bit of room. I'm going to lift the knee away from the floor. Start to roll the body over to the side. Let the head come to the ground. Try and connect that foot and hand together. As close as you can get. And lift the thigh up again to roll it over in a more exaggerated way back down to the floor, letting the feet come down. And then we take it to the second side. So we start to lift the hip. The thigh, roll it over, head beyond the floor, so you can get the foot to touch the ground, and then walk the toes towards the fingers. not the other way around, that would be cheating. Roll it back slowly, all the way to the ground. We'll take it over to the first side again, to lift the thigh. As you breathe in, lift it high, roll it over. The higher you can get that knee to work for you, the further around you'll find that you can get the foot. Ease yourself back into the ground. We'll take it over to the second side. So lift as high as you can, roll it over. Bring it back slowly. And everything in life is always done in threes. So first leg lifts again. We come up slowly, roll it over. Bring it back gently into the last side. And back again. Bring the hands underneath the ribs. Press away from the floor. And we're going to sit gently back into child's pose. So we're going to bring the knees about midway through the mat. And again, bring the hands underneath the forehead. Make the hands a little higher than you would if your head was on the ground. Relax the shoulders. Let the breath come back to you. So there's still a few ways that we can wriggle through that spine. We'll lift back up to all fours and bring ourselves into down dog. And just stepping it out so it feels good. Now we're going to come up onto the tiptoes and draw the right knee into the chest and bring that foot through into lunge. I want to check the front knee is over the ankle. Going to allow ourselves to bring the hands alongside the body. Lift the chest off of the thigh till we come high. And then we'll simply bring the hands out to the side and above the head to touch the palms as we breathe. And exhale the hands back down to the side of the body. Inhaling up. And back down. Inhaling up. And down. One more time. Now we'll bring the hands to the floor. Step the back foot in ready for warrior two. Bring the hands alongside the hips again and open yourself up. Oops. Slowly. Slower than I did. Bring the hands in towards the heart. Take a little breath. You're going to rotate the body towards the front of the mat. Can you keep the back foot in that warrior two position? And see if you can take your left elbow to the outside of the right thigh. So it's a bigger stretch, looking to the side. And then we'll bring the hands down, but on the inside of the front foot. I'm going to spin the heel up and lengthen the leg away to drop the hip a little closer to the floor. Take the hands about one hand distance further forward. On the exhale, we're going to bend the elbows down towards the floor. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, back down. Inhale up. Exhale it down. Coming back up. And back down. Try and keep the back leg strong. And last time. As we lift, bring the hands back, framing the front foot, push off the toes on the back, and hopefully come into a forward fold. We're going to come up onto the shins with the fingertips, and then fold in deep. And then bring the hands onto the hips, soften the knees flat back. Take the hands high again. Into the heart. Exhale it down. I'm going to take the left foot back this time. Let's think about that. No, we don't. Must be the right foot going back. Take a little breath. We're going to duck twisting on the wrong side. You're not going to be pleased. You're going to take a little breath from here. Bring the hands alongside the body. Lift the body up slowly. Keep the front knee over the ankle. Then we take the breaths with the palms towards the sky. Exhale it down. Inhale it up. Two more. Last one. Bring the hands to the ground. Drop the back heel for warrior two. Hands alongside the hips, we open up. Hands into the heart. It's that rotation of the body. And slowly taking the elbow to the outside of the thigh. Bring the hands to the floor on the inside. Spin the heel on the back leg. Slide it back a little further. Remember, the hands come a hand distance further forwards. Take a breath. Elbows towards the ground. Inhale it up. Exhale it down. Inhale it up. Two more. Come back up, frame the front foot into lunge. Take a breath and press off the back toes into the forward fold. Bring the hands onto the shins to lift up halfway. And then fold deep. And soften the knees as you bring your hands onto the hips to lift up. Take one more breath to the sky. Hands into the heart. Exhale over slow and low. As you come in, just take the hands forwards a little bit so you can lift up onto tiptoes and then squat down onto the heels. Take the hands behind. Take a little breath. And allow ourselves to come down to the floor. Just rolling the spine out gently. Letting the hands come out nice and wide. You're going to slowly bring the feet close into your bottom on the center line. We're going to come into a supine eagle pose. We'll lift the left leg first, wrap it over the right, bend the knee. Bring the foot down and try and wrap it underneath the calf of the opposite leg. so the knees are now over the top of the hips. Shins are kind of following the parallel line of the floor. We draw the lower spine down again into the ground like we did before at the beginning of the class. We take the left hand up, right arm over the top, bend at the elbows. This time we're going to draw the elbows in towards the chest and draw the shoulders down towards the floor. Let those hands kind of pop into the nose or the forehead. Now, if you're able to get the wrap around with the foot around the calf, you are automatically squeezing the thighs together. If you haven't managed to do that, and not all of us can, and you're still trying to squeeze the thighs together, worry less about the foot position. Now we're going to release the arms out, untangle the legs, and we'll take the legs up towards the sky to lengthen out. Give them a little roll around of the ankles. And then bring the feet back in to the floor close to our bottom. We can take the right leg up now, cross over, and see if we can wrap that around. Now, if you're like me, you'll find that one side is manageable, and the other side, well, it's probably not going to happen for another 1,000 years. So we don't worry too much. We keep the belly drawn down, the spine into the floor. Our right arm comes across, the left arm over the top, bend at the elbows. Palms come together, we draw the elbows into the chest and the shoulders down. We try and make the spine as flat as it can, so we're taking out the natural curves a little bit. Last breath in. Release the arms out. Untangle the legs and point them up towards the sky. Now we're going to point the toes up. We want to try and have the feet directly over the hips. We're looking for a balance point down through the thighs into the hips. And spread the toes out a little bit. Going to keep that spine flat to the ground, and then we're just going to sit here and breathe. Try and relax the shoulders, the lower back muscles, the abdominal muscles, hip flexors, glutes, etc. They're going to be doing a lot of work and shaking for us, so we want to try to let the rest of the body have a little bit of a breather. I'm sure the legs won't mind. About 10 seconds left. And then we can bend the knees. Whew, bring the knees in towards the body. We'll take the hands on top of the kneecaps and just paint some nice circles with those knees in the air. Whew, that was hard work. And we'll let the circles move in the opposite direction a couple of times. And then we're going to let the feet come back down onto the floor, close into our bottom. Take the hands out nice and wide and just shift the hips over to the left side and let the knees rock down into the right side. And we'll lift back to the center. Realign ourselves. Roll over to the opposite side. I'm going to take the right hand onto the chest and slide it across so the whole body is onto the left side of the mat. Just use the hands there, press down to come gently back up. And once I do that, I'm going to find my trusty block. Allow myself to hoist myself up, the legs out in front. So it's a Dandasana shape that we're looking for, which is called staff pose. So the upright staff of the body, lengthening the legs away, flexing the toes towards us. Hands out to the side. And we're going to take it into a twisted version. So I'm going to take the left hand over to the right thigh and take the right hand behind the hip. Try not to lean back. Allow yourself to rotate into that. You can just imagine that you can tilt your pelvis very slightly forwards to take out the tendency for it to roll towards the back of the mat. Still keeping the feet flexed back towards you. Now, if you've noticed that one leg has kind of moved forwards a little bit, that's fine. Come back into the center. Take a moment for that spine to unravel. And then take it into the second side. So very little effort going into the hands to twist us around. And then release, and we're back to the center again. And take a little breath from here. Allow ourselves to put a bend in the knees. I'm going to just lift onto the front sitting bones a little bit, bring the hands onto the shins, and then slide myself forwards. And I'm going to let myself round the spine for a change. Let the head drop, draw the shoulders back. I'm going to use the hands to help flex the feet towards me. ourselves come back up. Now we're going to slowly bring the soles of the feet together and quite close in towards the body. There's kind of a happy medium between not having the knees right up near your armpits and the feet far enough away so your knees aren't actually touching the floor. So for me, I don't know, about 4 or 5 inches in front of the groin when I'm sitting on the block. If I wasn't sitting on the block, it would be further away. I'm going to take the index finger, middle finger around the big toe joints and then try and lift myself up, draw the pelvis forwards again, roll the shoulders back, and very lightly think about pressing the knees down towards the floor. Do all that and allow yourself to breathe easily into your chest, into your belly. And we'll slowly release. Now, let's stretch the legs out just for a moment and then reset them. So I'm going to bring one heel into the groin and then the opposite heel into the groin. So I'm not crossing the ankles over. Take the fingers out in front, about shoulder distance apart. Lift up out of the pelvis and then fold over the space that you've made. Now, if you cross your ankles, you won't be able to get to quite the same position. You would be better off taking the legs a little further forwards and crossing at the shins. Now you may be not leaning forwards as far as me. You might be able to get the elbows on the ground, or you might be sitting higher. Some of that will depend on whether you've been able to take the same position in the legs as I have. Draw the belly in. Send the tailbone back a little, press into the hands. And then use the fingers to walk back in. And we'll just stretch out the legs and take it to the second side. So just have a little time to make sure you're happy with where your knees and your ankles are. You can mix and match the position of legs and shins, ankles, etc. as you need. And then walk yourself forwards again when you're ready. And then we'll slowly walk the hands back in. And we'll start to prepare for Shavasana. So just lengthening the legs out. Moving from the block. I'm going to take it behind my head again, just to find that more comfy. Knees are high, hands behind to support. Roll the spine gently down into the floor. Have the block under the head. Avoid pressing into the neck or the shoulders. Hands come out gently to the side. Wriggle the shoulders underneath. Lengthen the pelvis and the hips away to the front of the mat. Then slide a heel gently out to each corner. Unless your spine feels like it's done a lot of work, as the muscles feel tired and a little bit sore, then you keep the feet wide and the knees together, dropping in towards the center line. So we'll start to wriggle the toes and fingers. Get the wrists and the ankles join in. Breathe a little deeper into the chest. Enjoy a stretch, whatever that looks like. And then finally draw the heels along the ground. Bring the feet close in towards the body. A gentle hug, a rock, whatever feels good. And then we'll take a deeper breath in. We'll exhale on the way down to the right side. Take a breath down on the floor. And then on the exhale, use the hands to guide ourselves back up. Coming into a seated posture. Bring the hands in towards your heart. Deepen the breath. Close the eyes, let the chin drop to the chest. Let the spine bow down to the floor, sealing your practice for the evening. On the inhale, we build the spine back up. Head lifts, eyes open. Namaste. Have a wonderful weekend.